welcome, welcome to today's fun and free paint party. If you're able to join, say hi. And I would appreciate so much if you would help me spread the word, and just comment hi where you're watching from. And let me just double check that everything is working okay. So this is Byrdie with Redbyrd Designs going live to do a fun and free Winter Fox paint party. If you're interested in painting along, you can get the free supply list and tracers. The link is in the description. Okay, sounds like I got audio good. Hi Sarah from Malta, glad you could join. Welcome, welcome. All right guys, let's get started here. So we are doing this super cute winter fox, and if you missed it before or missed the other ones, we have a series of paintings in this color scheme. So let me show you what those look like real quick. You can find those on our Facebook page, and the supply list and tracers for those are also available on our website. So if you want to catch those on the replay, those are available under our videos on our Facebook page. So the first one in this color scheme was the winter gnome, and then we did the winter owl, and today we're going to wrap up this color scheme with the fox. So in all three paintings we're using the same colors and creating this little series. Next week we are painting the love pattern. So this isn't a new idea by any means, but it's a fun painting to do. It allows us to play with patterns in each of these boxes and create these fun tiles. So I'm looking forward to that next week. And again, the link for the information, supply list and tracers are in the description. And you get a zip file that is emailed to you. So when you click on the link, it takes you to our website. The website has a list of all of the paintings that you can download that information for, and then you put your email in and it will shoot you an email with a zip file, which then you uncompress and you'll get a PDF for the top part of the tracer, the bottom part of the tracer, and the supply list. So then once we have those printed out, we just line up our image and then we tape it together, and then we are ready to transfer that to our canvas or our paper. So today I am painting on mixed media paper, and I've taped it down to my surface to give me a nice clean white edge or border around my painting, but that's not necessary. You don't have to tape off anything if you don't want to, and I'll show you that at the end. Okay, so I've lined up my fox on my paper, kind of centering him top and bottom, left to right, and I've taped it down so that it doesn't move. And then I'm going to take my graphite paper. Graphite paper has two sides, a dull side and a shiny side. You want to make sure that the shiny side is down in between here. And then we're just going to take a pencil and we'll transfer this fox onto our paper or canvas, whatever you're using. The tracer for these paintings are in the 11 by 14 size, but you can take these PDFs and scale them up and down to fit whatever size that you're painting on. So just take a peek at that, make sure I got everything, looks good, and we can remove this. Okay. Let me see if I can fix the lighting just a little bit. Make it just a little bit brighter. Oh, hey. So let's start with the colors that we're using. For this painting, I'm using a white and a black from Apple Barrel. Any color or any brand white and black will work. And then I'm using an Apple Barrel bright red and the Deco Art Americana Green Lagoon. So just to give you an idea, just a teal or turquoise color and then a red. For brushes, I'm going to use a large flat brush for the background so that we can easily get this background in quickly. And then we have a couple different rounds. I've got a large round here, a medium round, a small, my liner brush, and then to do the plaid in the scarf, I'm going to use a small flat, and this is a number 4 for that. If you don't want to do a plaid on the scarf, you absolutely don't have to. You can do any sort of pattern that you want there. All right, let's get started. So we're going to start with the background, round color, and I want to put a bunch of white on my palette to start with, and the Green Lagoon, a little bit smaller amount of that. We don't need quite as much there. And I'm going to start with my large flat here. Okay, just double checking everything. All right, so large flat, we'll load it up with a bunch of white. Get our brush filled, and then I'm just going to dip that in the Green Lagoon and come out and do a bunch of different brush strokes, random X's, left and right, up and down, work my way around my fox. And we just want to do a gentle blend to create a nice soft muted background. Don't over blend, otherwise you'll just get one color, but we want to see some of that white come out. We want to see that turquoise come out in our brush strokes. So we're just doing an easy, gentle blend, working fairly quickly. You don't want to spend too much time on this. Keep it random. Depending on how much turquoise or the Green Lagoon you get in your brush will determine how dark your sky is. So play around with that. If it's a little too dark, just add a little bit more of that turquoise color. If it's, wait a minute, I think I said that backwards. If it's a little too dark, add more white. If it's too light, add more turquoise. And then just blend that color in those areas that you want to adjust. I'm not too concerned about staying in the lines around my fox. This is a light color, and my fox is going to get a coat of paint on it, so it's okay if we paint outside the lines around the fox. It's all going to get covered up eventually. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit more dark up here in the corner. It looks a little light. Here we go. Give my brush a quick wash here, and I'm going to grab some black, and we'll get the snow cover or the ground in. Okay, so for the ground, it's actually a really light gray with some streaks of white in it. We don't want to just go for an all white snowy ground, because then it's going to look pretty flat and he'll look like he's kind of floating in nothingness. So what we're going to do is load up, still using that large flat, load it up with a bunch of white, and then just a small tiny little dip in that black. You don't want to get too much because black will overpower anything. But that will give us just the slightest little bit of gray in our brush stroke. And so then I'm just going to come out and go left to right, kind of blending that gray in. It's a little bit darker back here where the ground meets the sky, our horizon line. So we want it dark back there. It's further away. And then it just kind of gets lighter as we go down. So we'll load up with white, do another little tiny dip in the black. See if I can show that here. There's just a very tiny dip, bit of black on my brush. So now we want to have a little bit of some darker gray under our fox for a shadow. So I'm going to start there and just drag my brush all along the bottom of his tail here. And then I'm going to go grab some more white and start blending that gray down. Kind of creating a little bit of an ombre all the way down. There we go. You don't want it too dark to the point where it looks like it's just really dirty snow, but we do need to have some color there. Okay, so we've got just this little section here on the side of his tail where we're ending, and we see just a little bit of that horizon line back there, so I'm going to grab just a little bit of black for back there and fill that in. There we go. So if you guys are able to paint with me, comment that you're painting, or if you're going to catch this on the replay and painting later, comment replay. I'd love to hear who's able to paint, and if you guys are painting with, I would love to see your creations. I encourage you to share your work and let us see your paintings. Alright, so I'm going to start by putting my first coat down on my fox. Now I'm using just a really bright red to start with. That's going to be my first layer. And then I'm going to come in and add some black to this and darken it up. And give him more of that darker red color. So this first layer is going to look pretty terrible. because it's super bright and it's the first coat and it's not going to cover all that well. But trust the process. We will get there with layers. It's all about layers in painting. Now, if you had a darker red color that you wanted to use right out of the gate, you could definitely use that. I really enjoy mixing my paints as I go, and having that variation happen every time I paint something. It's never the same. And mixing my own colors. I like mixing my own gray. I like mixing my pinks and all of that. So and a dark red is one of those colors that I like to mix. But if you had a brick red or a dark Tuscan type color that you wanted to use, you definitely could do that. And you can actually, in response to that, use any color you want. If you wanted your fox to be more orange, if you wanted to do a different colored background, if you wanted to have a different colored scarf, make it your own. Do whatever colors that you want to do here. There are no rules when painting. Okay. Alright, and then we've got this little section up here by his face and his ears, and I think I am going to switch to a different brush. I was using my larger round, but it's a little bit smaller area up here, so I'm going to switch to a smaller round to help me get into these little tighter spaces. Okay, we've got this little ear back here. Don't forget about that. And I'm painting right over his eye because I can still see that line work through the red. So I'm not worried about trying to paint around the eye. I'll just come back over the red with black and it will be good. Sarah says she's using the colored pencil and freehand the fox, but loving the process. Awesome. Yes, use whatever you have on hand. Colored pencils, watercolor. The process might be a little bit different, but absolutely use whatever medium you have and enjoy using. Well, I would love to see your end result with colored pencils, Sarah. I think that would be really pretty. Okay. So while that's drying, let's paint the under part of his face and his chest white. Using, again, just using that small round. Just giving this a coat of white here. So be careful when painting next to the red because we did just put that layer down. It's wet. If you accidentally drag your white through it, you're going to end up with pink, which I have just a little bit right here, but I'll come in with the second coat and fix that. So the other great thing about paint is if you make a mistake, we just let it dry and then we come back in with the second coat and fix it. So I'm going to let this dry because I keep making it more pink. So we'll come back to that area here in just a little bit. And I still got red in my brush. Let me try this again. There we go. I had just a touch of red in my brush. It was giving me a super light pink color. There we go. All right. Oh, you know what? I forgot to, I colored his hotel white, guys. I'm just going to create a line here and use my large round, and we'll come over that end with some white. I wonder if that's in the tracer that way. Let me take a look. Oh yes. So if you're painting this, and be aware that I forgot to add the line to create the white tip on his tail. No worries. So I grabbed my large round. We'll get some white down, and we're gonna just cover that tail with white on the tip here. Thought it looked like it was missing something. So this is gonna take a couple coats to cover that red. There we go. Alright, so we're going to work on a scarf next. We'll let everything dry here on our fox, and then we will come back and put our second coat on everything. And I've added a little bit of white to my palette off to the side here, and I'm going to start grabbing some of this black because I'm going to create my own gray, and I'm just going to continually add black until I get the color of gray I want. I want it to be a little bit dark, kind of like a slate gray. Always start small with black. Like I said, black goes a long way. And then just add more as you need it. Okay, that looks good. So it's the gray I want. Now we can come in and we're gonna just start by filling in the entire scarf with this slate gray. And then we'll come in with some lighter color gray and give it that fun plaid look. I'm just using the tip of my brush, of my round here, to create some fun little tassels on the end. Fringe, I guess they'd be. There we go. Okay, so let's go put our second coat on our fox here. And this is where we're going to mix our dark red. Again, if you have a dark red that you want to use, you're more than welcome to use that. Like I said, I like mixing my colors, so I'm going to take this bright red that I have, that I put my first coat down, and I'm going to dip my brush in that black, and I'm going to start darkening it up until I get the red that I want. Let's get just a little bit more black in here, get a little bit darker. There we go. Alright, so now we can come in here and see this start to look a little bit better on our fox. He's getting that dark coat. And I just love this color scheme. I love this dark red color and the touch of teal in it with that slate gray. I think it just is so pretty. Alright, I'm going to switch to my smaller round to get around the ears there. Help me do a little bit of that detail work up here. There we go. Much better, much better. Alright, I'm going to give my brush a quick little wash, and I'm going to I'm going to move to the black, and I'm going to fill in his nose with that small liner brush, or small round. And then also put his eye in here. Okay, let's put a second coat of white on. Now, if you didn't drag your white through the red like I did, and your white looks great, you absolutely do not need a second coat. However your coverage is, always remember that you might need a second coat, you might need a third, or you might not need any. So it just kind of depends on the paint you're using and if you need to cover up any mistakes like I do. So I have some pink running through his fur here that I want to cover up. So we're going to come in with a second coat. So if you're just joining us for the first time, we are on we are doing live paintings every week, or we're going to try and do one every week. Something fun, it's free, to allow us to paint together and get some creative therapy in, grow as painters. And so I encourage you to join us. If you are wanting the tracer or the supply list, that is all available in the link in the description. It just takes you to my website where you can choose the painting that you want the tracer and information for. You put your email in, it sends you an email with a zip file that you then unzip or uncompress, and you'll have the 3 files that you need there. Alright, well that red covered up really well. I thought maybe I'd have to do 3 coats on his tail because I had accidentally taken the red all the way to the end, and we didn't want to do that. Okay, so since I've got white on my brush, I'm going to add a few of the white highlights to the areas on the fox. We have a white highlight running right here to help us distinguish his tail from the back of his body here. So I'm going to just add a quick little stroke there. And then we also have one at the top of his nose here, and then on each ear. Okay. All right, so we've got that part done. Let's work on the pattern for his scarf. And again, you don't have to do a plaid pattern. You could do polka dots, stripes, whatever you want to do here. So for the plaid pattern, I'm going to use a small flat brush so I can get some nice lines going across here. And I'm going to mix my own gray. I want it to be a little bit lighter than the gray here, so I'm going to grab some white, move it aside. I'll grab a little bit of black and start mixing that up. Any gray lighter than what we already had will work. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going to start by putting in some stripes going horizontal and then vertical. And then on the scarf tails here, we're going to kind of go at an angle where they're not going to be up and down quite as much. So let's start at the bottom of the scarf and work our way up. I'm going to just start here in the middle and drag my brush right along the bottom of edge of his scarf here, kind of come around to that point, and then I'll take my line and go the other way as well, and we kind of thin that out as we get around this area that's going around his neck here. Okay, and then from there we're going to skip one and do another one and just drag our line all the way across. Now don't worry about it being perfect because it's a scarf. There's going to be wrinkles in the scarf. It's going to be bunched up. So our plaid shouldn't look super perfect because that would mean it's laying super flat, and that's not the case coming around his neck there. All right, and then we're going to go, so we've got our horizontal pieces. We're going to go up and down now and do our vertical, and I'm going to just start here at the end and come down. We'll skip a space about a brush length away, and just drag our brush straight down. And it looks like we might just have a half of one maybe on the end here. Okay, and then for the tails here, like I said, it's not quite as straightforward as up and down. We're going to kind of come at an angle, and again, we're not going to worry about creating that perfect plaid or perfect checkerboard because it's bunched up, it's you know, tied up here. So we're going to start by just dragging a line down the length of the tail for this one. And then I'm going to hold my brush kind of up at an angle and create a thin gray line that kind of gets a little bit thicker as we go down. Okay, so that's that tail. And now for this tail, doing the same thing, I'm going to start on an edge that I know, drag that gray down this edge here, and then for the other one I'm going to start thin at the top again, drag it down and kind of thicken it up as I go. Okay, and then we're going to just go across from edge to edge on the one tail, and then I'm going to come at a different, slightly different angle on the other tail, just so we can see that difference between the two tails. We don't want them to be lining up exactly. And there we go. Alright, so to make it look a little more like maybe a buffalo plaid, I'm going to go and dip my brush in this black, and everywhere that my two grays meet in that square where they're crossing, I'm going to give that a black color. So I'm just going to drag my brush through that little square right there. And I didn't wash my brush, I've just been dipping it right in the black. It's still got the gray on there, and it's giving us these kind of streaky black looks, which I think are really cool. It makes it look more like there's some threads in there that we're seeing. So I'm okay with it not being perfectly black. Okay, so again, the tail's a little bit more difficult, but again, don't try and be perfect with it. If your squares aren't even actual squares, that's okay. Our scarf is bunched up and our plaid is not laying flat, so we're not seeing that pattern exactly anyways. Okay. Okay, so then the last step of my scarf is to add some white lines in that. So I'm going to grab my liner brush, which is the smallest brush I have. I'm going to go to the white, and I'm going to just start dragging some white lines in there to give my plaid just a little bit more color. It's got some more dimension by adding just another color in it. So I'm going on top, I'm dragging a white line on the top of the black line here, black square line. I'm going to do it on that one, and then we're going to go, let's do it on the right hand side of my vertical lines. And there we go. And we'll do the same here. Just kind of looking at where we need some different color here. And they don't have to be touching, they can be separated lines, just quick little brush strokes. And we'll go the other way with it. So it is by far from perfect, and that's okay. We want it to look very natural and imperfect. Okay, so we're almost done with this super cute fox. All we need to do is grab some black and do some outlining and defining some of the elements on our painting, and then add some snow. So I've put a little bit of some fresh black on my palette, and I'm going to drop a little bit of black in, or a little bit of water in it, and loosen it up a little bit. When you're outlining or trying to create really thin black lines, it's important to have thin paint so that you can push it around a little bit easier. It doesn't clog up on your brush. So I've added just a couple drops here, mixed it in, and now we're ready to go. So we'll start from the top, and with just a very light pressure, I'm going to start adding my black lines. All the way around. The other thing to think about when you're outlining is the ability to set your hand down on your surface or someplace that you can rest your hand, because our hands get heavy, and if we're trying to create a thin line like this with our hands lifted up off the surface, we're going to end up getting tired and dropping our hand, which then will apply more pressure to our brush and then give us a really thick line. So if any part of your painting is still wet and you're not able to rest your hand on it, I would give it a second, take a blow dry to it, and get it so that you can set your hand on it. Although acrylics dry pretty fast, which is why I love painting with them. So most things should be almost dry anyways. Okay, so I'm going to come around here. Before I do the bottom of the fox so that I can set my hand down, and we're taking this black line here at the top of his tail just to this point, because his tail is actually wrapping around here, and we're just trying to define this line right where his tail's wrapping around, but we don't have to take it all the way to the end there. Okay, and then I'm just adding a black line at that horizon line on both sides, and then we are good with this little fox. So now the last step is to add our snow, and to do the snow I'm just going to use the back of my brush the back end, and I'm going to dip it in that white and just start dotting my sky here. So in my painting, I decided that I wasn't going to add any snow on top of the fox, but you definitely could give it more of a snowy atmosphere if you just started making sure snow was everywhere. I kind of wanted the snow just to be something pushed to the background so that the fox stood out, but you could definitely change it up as you wanted to. I'm also just adding some dots down on the ground to make it look like the snow is falling all the way down there as well. You could use the splatter technique and add snow that way. That always makes a pretty snowfall, just by adding a little bit of water to the white, watering it down ever so slightly, adding it to your brush, and then just tapping your brush on your finger gives it a nice splattered white technique. If you do the splatter technique, I do recommend covering your back area back here. All of my jars back here have white splatter on them. It is a messy process, but it's fun. And always practice that on something before you commit to it, so you can kind of see how that splatter works. All right, guys, let's see. I think that's it. This is our winter fox painting today. I hope that you're able to paint if later or at some point and get some creative therapy in. The process of painting is really what it's all about. It's not about what we can hang or what we can add to the decor of our house. I know in the past that was kind of my stopping block, like, well, I really don't want to paint this because I can't really do anything with it. And that's really not the point of it. The point is to get that creative therapy in. Drawing something fun and easy gives us that time to just kind of escape and get lost in your brush strokes. So I hope you find time to do that, regardless if it matches your home decor. Maybe it just sits in a mixed media pad forever, but that time can really help. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. If you have any issues with the downloads, let me know. And I look forward to possibly seeing some of your work. I would love to see what you guys have created. I love seeing all the variation come out of these. The best part about it is seeing your creativity come to life. And once you start getting lost in the painting, you start to ask what if, and you start doing things a little bit different, and that is just kind of where the magic happens. So share your work. I'd love to see it. Let me just lift this up. I did want to show you that edging that happens when you do paint off or tape off your edges, so you get this really nice border all the way around. If you did want to hang this or put it in a clipboard or whatever you were doing, you could do that. So that's what the tape is there for. So this is our cute little fox, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to painting with you guys next week, doing some fun patterns, and I hope you guys have a great week. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.